Did you know every time you give someone a rose, you're handing over a story of blood, death, temper tantrums, and a possible murder mystery? See, I ran into this bouquet of roses recently and I thought, hey, why are roses so iconic? Also, I should paint those. How did this flower earn its spot in $50 Valentine's bouquets and cliche tango moves? So of course, I looked into it. And the answer lies over 2,000 years ago within the plethora of drama that is Greek mythology. So here's a story. According to Greek legend, there was this girl named Chloris, and she was the goddess of flowers. One day she was frolicking through the woods, checking out the plants, checking out the trees, and then she trips and falls over a dead body. This body belonged to a nymph, which is sort of like a nature fairy, and Chloris got really sad to see such an innocent creature dead, so she decided to give it new life by turning it into a flower. She called up a bunch of her Greek godly buddies to help out, including Dionysus, the god of wine, who gave the flower its scent, and Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and love, who made it beautiful. And Aphrodite liked the final result so much, she dedicated it to her son Eros, the god of romance, by naming the flower Rose, which you may notice is an anagram of Eros. Now Eros loved his flowers. He would carry them, frolic in them, and apparently make out with them. Because one day he was leaning in to smooch one of his beloved roses, and he got stung by a bee that was pollinating them. And being the Prince Charming level mama's boy that he was, he goes crying to the fairy godmother. I mean Aphrodite. She coddles him and is like, "Oh my sweet boy, how dare those roses? Here, take this and you go teach him who's boss." She gives him a magical quiver of arrows, and he takes his bow and starts vengefully shooting at the roses. But my guy in his temper tantrum had poor aim, so he ended up hitting the stems a lot, which forever became the rose's thorns. And that little act of child coddling will come back to bite Aphrodite, because in another Greek myth, Aphrodite falls in love with a mortal man, Adonis, who was a hunter. And one day while he's out hunting, Aphrodite has a dream he'll be killed by a wild boar. So she runs through the forest to try to warn him, but in her desperate frenzy, she cuts herself on the thorns of a bunch of rose bushes. Her blood splashes on the white blossoms and creates the first red roses. Sadly, she doesn't make it in time and Adonis is already dead. But all is good in the end because Aphrodite pleads with Zeus, aka Big Daddy Bossman of the gods, to resurrect Adonis as a god, which he does. Not a bad upgrade. And that act of passion, devotion, and blood sacrifice to be with the one you love is what we call back to each time we give a red rose. Side note, it was an extramarital relationship. Might want to leave that part out on Valentine's. Perhaps the most romantic story of all is just the fact that we as humans value symbolism and stories to the point that we will cultivate and gift one specific spiky weed just to let each other know our feelings are as big as the gods of legend. But there is one question left dangling that I want to know. What happened to the nymph? Because nymphs are pseudo-immortal, meaning they don't usually die unless they are killed. There is no info about what happened here. We just brushed right over that. So I think we need to launch an ancient investigation here, and I say we start with Chloris. It's always the whimsical, benevolent ones who've got something to cover up.